Testing. 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Test, test.
Okay, it's time to get started. At this time, I will call this special meeting of the Lawton City Council to order. Please rise for the invocation by Minister Dwayne Hall of Get the Word Out Incorporated and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor?
Psalm 37, Psalm of David, verses 3 through 6. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and feed on his faithfulness. Delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light, and your justice as the noonday. Father, I thank you for this land of Lawton, Fort Sill. And Lord, I thank you for the faithfulness that's transpired this last year. Holy Spirit, I pray that you help us to increase faithfulness in this year to come, 2024. desires of your heart so that you can give us the desires of our heart as we commit our way to you and trust in you. And I declare righteousness and light and justice as the noonday sun. We bless you. We worship you. I thank you for these council members. I pray that you guard their hearts and their minds in this year to come, and that you even visit them in the nighttime hours with your angelic messengers so that they would be able to make extremely wise decisions that will impact this community of Lawton Fort Sill. And it's in Jesus' name I pray, in the spirit of faith. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Minister Hall. Please call the roll.
Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Gill. Hampton. Uyghur. Johnson. Warren.
Business item number 1, hold a public hearing and consider adopting an ordinance providing for the annexation of the southwest quarter of Section 1, Township 1 North, Range 13 west of the Indian Meridian, Comanche County, Oklahoma, into the corporate limits of the city of Lawton, Oklahoma, providing that the annexed territory be zoned as temporary I-4 heavy industrial district for a period not to exceed 1 year, superseding ordinance number 22-34, and by a separate vote, declare an emergency. Tim.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So this item comes on today. Essentially, last December 6, 2022, the council did have a public hearing, and we adopted ordinance 2234, which did an annexation of the same tract of land that we're talking about today. However, in preparing for the West Wind amended redevelopment agreement that was voted on earlier this month, staff noticed an issue with the notification that was done at the time back last year, and specifically that it was published. The notice was published once in the newspaper, and for a what I call a 105 annexation, actually requires 2 publications in the newspaper in successive weeks. And so we talked about that internally with our outside counsel also, and we thought best to go ahead and confirm the annexation. And by doing so, CCIDA has submitted a new petition for annexation. Notice was published twice in the Lawton Constitution, and we are here today for the council to consider the ordinance for annexation and have a public hearing. If this passes, it will supersede the previous ordinance from last year, and we'll move forward with annexing or confirming the annexation of the property. And as we are asking for an emergency, so it go into effect immediately, so that require a separate vote, a vote on the ordinance itself, and then a vote on the emergency clause. And the emergency clause would require 6 to pass. Thank you.
Council, do you have any questions before I open the public hearing? Mr. Harris.
I was curious, Tim, why we're only zoning that for heavy industrial for a year.
Okay, so when you do a annexation, you have a temporary zoning that's initially the initial zoning. So we're recommending that it be zoned industrial 4 temporarily, and then what will happen is it will come back to the council, I believe in the relatively near future, a request for a permanent zoning in that zoning classification. But since it's an initial one, we do temporary, but we'll be considering in the future a permanent zoning classification.
Makes sense. Are there any questions, council, before I open the public hearing? At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to come forward to speak on this item, please do so at this time. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. So what I need is a motion for approval, waive the reading of the ordinance and read the title only, and then we'll have a separate motion for...
On the emergency.
Okay, so I need a motion for approval. We have a motion and we have a second. Please read the title.
An ordinance providing for the annexation of the southwest quarter of Section 1, Township 1 North, Range 13 west of the Indian Meridian, Comanche County, Oklahoma, into the corporate limits of the city of Lawton, Oklahoma, providing that the annexed territory be zoned as temporary I-4 heavy industrial district for a period not exceeding 1 year, superseding ordinance number 22-34, providing for severability and declaring an emergency.
Please vote. Motion carries 7-1. Now I need a motion declaring the previous ordinance
Mayor.
an emergency.
The
Yes.
vote was 7-0,
7-0. What did I say?
7-1.
Well, I guess I'm reading things. Thank you. 7-0.
First mistake you've ever made.
So I need a motion for declare an emergency. And a motion and a second to declare an emergency. Discussion or debate? Please vote. This does require 6 votes to pass. And it passes 7-0. All right, thank you, guys. And we move on to item number 2. Consider an ordinance approving and adopting the first amended Skills Training, Education, Development, and Investment Steady Project Plan as a minor amendment within the meaning of the Oklahoma Local Development Act 62 OS State Statute 858D, providing for severability, and by separate vote declaring an emergency. Dan Batchelor. Is he going to talk on this?
Or Dan or Lisa.
Dan or Lisa? Or Dan and Lisa?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and distinguished members of the council. It's a pleasure to be here in support of the request for a minor amendment to the Steady Project Plan. This is a minor amendment which accomplishes, upon approval, 3 things. One is it will modify the project area, that is the area in which supported activities will take place, to embrace the sites for the West Wind development, both the pilot plant in the immediate future and the larger facility, assuming that's built further down the road. It also modifies the project area to embrace certain locations where the city will need to and does plan to install certain public improvements. So those will be project activities as well. The other aspect of this amendment, and we say it's a minor amendment because it does not change the thrust or the purpose of the project plan. It does not increase the budget. It does not increase the area of any increment district by more than 5%. In fact, it does not change the area of any of the existing increment districts. So it is a minor amendment. But in carrying out the objectives of the plan, what has happened since this plan was originally adopted is the city of Lawton has created the FISTA facility with its technological focus and its offering of programs and training and education in STEM subjects. And so we have broadened and reshaped the focus and authorization of the STEM activities to embrace FISTA and provide the city greater flexibility in determining how you wish to carry out those activities. So those are the 3 things that the minor amendment will change if approved. One is change the project plan in 2 respects. That is to embrace areas where you do public improvements and also to embrace the West Wind development area. And the other then is to embrace FISTA as a part of the STEM program effort and provide the city additional flexibility in how it carries out its STEM objectives under this plan. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Council, do you have any questions for Dan? Is there discussion, or can I get a motion for approval, waiving the reading of the ordinance and read the title only? Oh, we do have one announcement. On the front page of the study plan, it had the wrong council member. It had Councilman Fortenbaugh in there, and that has been changed and handed out, and that may not be what was attached to the agenda, but that minor change has been made.
Yes, we have corrected that oversight in the version which we are requesting that you approve.
Yeah.
Might be minor to you, but not to me.
I move
do
to
have you
approve the ordinance, read the title only.
Have a motion to approve, waive the reading of ordinance, and read the title only, and a second. Discussion or debate? Please read the title.
An ordinance approving and adopting the first amended skills training, education, development, and investment steady project plan as a minor amendment within the meaning of the Local Development Act 62 OS Section 858D, providing for severability and declaring an emergency.
Please vote. Motion carries 7-0.
So we need a motion on the emergency now.
This is emergency too?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I need a motion to declare this an emergency.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. That was 7-0 also. All right, thank you, guys. Thank you, Dan and Lisa. Okay, item number 3, receive a presentation from the Lawton Economic Development Corporation and the Lawton Economic Development Authority regarding a potential industrial park project with the Airport Industrial Park. Brad Cooksey and Rich Rogowski.
Good afternoon, Council. It's good to see everyone. I hope everyone's having great holidays. As Richard's passing this out, I kind of want to get a brief synopsis of this project before Richard comes up and goes through a little bit of infrastructure things with you. But this is we call this Project PIC, and it's been in the works for 6 to 8 months now. And this is a project that's going to go on the airport industrial land that LEDC owns, and it's going to go directly north of the new Pepsi distribution facility. And this project is going to mirror the Pepsi project in itself. And when I say mirror, kind of how we're going to structure this, how we're trying to structure this, is going to be similar to what that Pepsi distribution plant was set up to do. Fisher 59, which is the entity that's doing this, they own a distribution plant here in Lawton right now. They have recently purchased another distribution facility, and they're going to combine the two. And so combined, right as they stand right now, there's about 60 employees, and they're going to add 40 to 60 more once this facility is done. So we're talking, a minimum another, we're keeping 60, and we're going to add another 40 to 60 employees with that. This is the capital investment we're looking at roughly around $20 million. So again, that property out there by the airport that we own is, it's Oklahoma Department of Commerce certified, so it's got all the utilities and it's ready to go. And the only thing that it really lacks is rail. And that's why it's so productive for distribution facilities to just go out there, because they don't need rail. They just need interstate access, and that interstate access is about a block away. So this is just success building on success out there in that industrial park. So with that, again, this is a Fisher 59 project. I know Rich has passed out a little packet here, and I'm going to turn it over to Rich right now as he talks through some of this infrastructure items that we're going to be asking for.
All right, thank you. I want to apologize first for the handouts. I'm fairly new coming back to town, and I don't have all the fancy bells and whistles I used to have when I was a city employee. So we'll work on that, and we'll have a fancier display next time. But the crux of the matter is, so you saw the first page that I handed out this is their draft floor, site plan that they prepared. You can see there's 100,000 foot warehouse, more or less, 8,000 foot of office space, very similar to any other distribution center that you might have there. It's on that 15-acre site. The next page is the existing infrastructure. As Brad mentioned, we were going to try to model this after the PepsiCo deal, which was Project Pumpkin, and that is where, you know, the industry purchases the property from the LEDC. The only thing that the public provides as an incentive is the off-site public improvements, which, you know, if this was a completed development, would be there anyway, right? So we're going to build the public street, the public sewer, and the public water that is off the site. And if you look on that second page, you see there is a public water line on the north, across the north end of the property, but there's a sewer line that comes north and south through it, and that sewer line needs to be relocated, just like at the PepsiCo project. And then obviously the road ends at the existing development there, so that road would be extended. The next sheet, very bad graphics. It shows the 15-acre parcel. It shows the remaining 43 acres that the LEDC still currently owns, and it kind of shows what you would look like if we did a road extension, a single road extension ending with a cul-de-sac just along the north side of the property. So all we would do is build a road on the north part of the property. It would end at the property extents, and then we would put a cul-de-sac there, just like we did with Pepsi. The next page is that same road, but extended down and tied back into the building to Rex Madeira Road, basically completing the infrastructure on that project. So this page here would complete the infrastructure, so the rest of that property, the other 42 acres, would be developed without any further public infrastructure requirement. So it creates truly shovel-ready facilities. So now, of course, the bigger project, go to the last page, the more road you build, the more expensive it is, obviously. Just to be clear, the amount of sewer line and the amount of water line that would have to be constructed is the same regardless, because you've got to complete that water line circuit. You've got to move the sewer to the down and connect it to the downhill sewer. So the costs on those are exactly the same. So the only thing that really changes is version 1 versus version 2 is the roadway amount. There's approximately another 1,000 feet of roadway, actually, in the two different versions. So actually 1,700 feet. And so you can see that the cost of the least cost is about 1.6 million, with the most cost being about 3 million. These are very broad estimates. As part of this project, what we would again, we're still talking to the developer, but just like we did with PepsiCo, we would suggest that the developer contract and get those. He would pay for the design of those public improvements, or they would pay for the design of those public improvements. They would give us the engineer's cost estimate, and that would be available before we came to a final agreement. So you would have a really good estimate of the cost of those public improvements, and then you'd have that redevelopment agreement that was based on that cost, but you would only reimburse them the actual costs of those. So whatever they paid the contractor, that's what you would reimburse them. So, you know, even though we're looking at the terms as estimated costs, the actual payment would be the actual cost. And what we found is when you have them build it, it goes a little faster, a little cheaper, and they control the timing of it, so you don't have those other, competing contractors on the same site. So we feel like that model works best. So again, we're not asking you to make any decisions today. What I like to do is obviously, so I'm involved in these projects, and Brad and I are involved in these projects early on, so we know all about it for like 6 months or something like that before we walk up to you and say, here, approve this term sheet. So what this is to say, okay, we have a project that we think is a real deal. They are wanting to close on that property. We feel like it's going to happen. And so we're bringing this to you just to let you know about it, so that you can kind of, think about it a little bit before we come to you and say, okay, approve this term sheet. Because that would be the next thing that we would bring to you is an actual term sheet to say, yeah, these are the terms that we're talking about. Do you agree with that? If you agree with that, then we move forward and they do the design work, and we come back with a full agreement, which is probably, a month or so later, a full agreement to have that redevelopment agreement that we would get this thing done on, a binding agreement. The term sheet is non-binding, but it certainly is. It does show your what your representation is. So, any rate, that's what I have. I kind of went through it kind of quick, and my sketches are bad, but is there any questions on that?
Council,
Oh.
do you have questions?
I have an important, I forgot one thing. And that is how we pay for it. So obviously, this is part of the SETI project plan. This is in the increment district. Well, how we pay for it, we would actually have to come and do a little work to find the money or to arrange where the money's going to come from and actually to reimburse the developer. But the reimbursement of the city's investment in here would be through the TIF district. Basically, that project, as Brad mentioned, probably going to do $20 million in real property improvements. So you have basically infrastructure or ad valorem taxes off of $20 million. 100% is increment. Currently, there's no taxes on the property. You earn $1.3 million. So, as you know, the SETI project plan has a number of places where money goes. There's some that goes to the schools, the counties, the STEM, there's other places, but there are a couple categories that are project support and public infrastructure that we use generally to pay back the city, to pay to do an enticement for the developer or anything like that. So those two categories, those are the ones I'll be quoting you. The whole thing earns much more than this, but basically we can earn that amount, that 1.3 million by year 9. So 1.6 million by year 10. So we would be able to reimburse the city at the 1.6 million within 10 years. And to go to 3 million, it would take year 13. So it would be year 13 to get to the 3 million mark. So you can see it does reimburse the city in a reasonable amount of time. At any rate, now we're good. Now we're done. Thank you.
Okay, now we move on to item 4, and I'm going to turn this over to Mayor Pro Tem.
Council, I'm going to read item number 4 is consider approving a resolution of support for the appointment of Mayor Stan Booker to the District 9 seat on the Board of Directors of the Oklahoma Municipal League, declaring said appointment to be for the benefit of the city of Lawton and other municipalities within the district, and declaring the mission of the Oklahoma Municipal League to be for the public purpose. Council, this is a really good opportunity, I think, for us to have a voice in what is going to happen statewide, some of the information that's going to be pushed out, and just to be able to have a foot in the door to the municipal league. So I would make a motion to approve. I've got a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries 7-0.
All right, now we move on to item number 5. Consider approving a professional service agreement for insurance broker service with Insurica and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Good
Craig.
afternoon. Am I still on? Okay. This is just a professional services agreement from last council meeting when y'all voted to go with Insurica as our broker. This is just the professional services agreement for y'all to consider.
We have a motion for approval and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. The item carries 7-0. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? So moved. Have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Warren? Hankins? Harris? Chapman? Gill? Hampton? Uyghur?
How you doing?
Jim, just come by and see me sometime next week.
Okay, we're back from executive session. Can I have a motion to return?
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A second, please call the roll.
Weiger.
Yes.
Warren. Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Gill.
Yes.
Hampton.
Executive session item number 6. Tim.
Pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the council convened an executive session to discuss an action relating to a class action lawsuit, McKinsey and Company, Inc., United States versus McKinsey and Company, Inc., Washington, D.C., collectively McKinsey, claiming McKinsey played a central role in the unfolding propagation and exploitation of the opioid crisis by advising multiple opioid manufacturers and other industry participants how to sell as many prescription opioids as possible. Said lawsuit being In re McKinsey and Company, Inc., National Prescription Opioid Consultant Litigation, case number 3:21 MD 02996 CRB, Northern District of California. Conversation did occur regarding that class action lawsuit. We have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I move to accept the outside counsel recommendation and take no action to opt out of a class action case pending in federal court in the Northern District of California against McKinsey and Company.
Is there a second?
Second.
We do have a second. Please vote. Motion carries 7-0. City Manager has a public safety announcement.
Mayor and council and citizens, just be mindful that you cannot use fireworks inside the city limits without a permit. And if you do choose to use them outside the city limits, please be careful. Happy New Year.
And do we have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
I have a motion for adjournment of the last meeting of the council of the year and a second. If we don't want to debate it, please vote.
Chapman. Gill.
Yes.
Hampton. Weiger. Warren. Hankins. Harris.
With all my blinking glory, yes.